Hello, as always, I've been doing some slash control coding, so I'll show you what I got today. So I've started off the day on, as usual, a tangent, and I wanted to get this little toolbar thing to go to the side. But, it needs to only go to the side, I guess I call this vertical view versus horizontal view, where the toolbar would be on the side of this. I only want to go on the side depending on the maximum size this page thing could be. So I want to optimize for this to be as big as possible, whereas I could resize it. It's kind of touchy. Whereas this can move out of the way when there's some extra room. So instead of it staying down here and making it so it can't actually size all the way, it'll scoot out of the way. But when you slide it back, it will snap right when there's enough room. Right there. And it could go back and forth. So right when there's enough room, it's able to do that, which is very satisfying and kind of completely unnecessary. I spent hours just doing that as usual. A lot of things just take hours to do because there's so much jank in getting this, and I had to use states just to figure out, like, okay, I need to make sure the aspect ratio is optimized for. But when this actually switches to over on this side, then, this little gap gets shorter. So I had like some issues where it would just spasm between the two states because it would be like bigger, but then smaller, and then it'd be taking up all the space and whatnot. So it was a pain in the ass. But it does work with every aspect ratio. So we have a 1 by 1 right here, but if I squeeze it together, it'll squeeze down because the height is now the optimal kind of length that it could resize itself on. Then I could rescale it here, and if I scaled it this way again, you'll realize it could scale bigger when it gets over here. So whenever you're editing your pages, it'll always be as big as possible, no matter what, which is very nice. Now the next thing, of course, there's only a couple things. There's like three main things I did today. So it was this with the resizing. It was also the select menu. So if you right click on things, you can see it shows an add button thing, right? But it used to go off the side of the page, which was very annoying. Now it doesn't. Now it'll appear on the left side of the cursor if it's too close to the side of the page, and then it'll reappear on the right when it has enough room. But it'll also do that for the bottom, which is actually a lot more difficult to calculate because the height of the context menu is different for every context menu. I mean, there's only one type of context menu, it only has one button so far, but there are more buttons. Then it's like, okay, so how big is this actual thing before I render it? Like, I had to calculate that beforehand. I'm sure there's some workaround to that. Maybe like have it invisible for like a frame and then, I don't know, re-render it, some bullshit. But I figured it out, and I just, render it the same way. It's not that impressive, but god damn it, this is also a thing that took me like an hour. Don't worry about it. But yeah, once you get close enough, if it has enough room, it'll go down there. It do go down. All right, and then the last thing. Last thing would be if you right click, you can add a button, right? You could add all these buttons. You can add buttons on the side now. They won't overflow, so they'll stay on the screen, which is nice. That's not really a main thing, though. And, of course, when you resize it, it'll stay the same size relative to everything. But what I was trying to do was getting the drag to work. I'm honestly, I'm kind of stumbling over my thoughts because it is, again, late at night, 1 a.m. I'm actually getting a little bit better of a sleep schedule. I'm getting tired earlier in the night, which is really good. But I couldn't get the dragging to work. All I got to work was, if you look down here, if I click it, that's the third thing that I added. Not third, but fourth technically, because 0 indexed. But yeah, this is item number 0, 1, 2, 3. all that stuff. But I've been trying to get the dragging to work. And the reason why it doesn't work is because these buttons are dynamically added. However, you can't directly access state in a thing that's dynamically added, because one of the React rules is that you have to call the same amount of hooks every single time you run the page. Like, one thing is the context menu. The context menu has a hook in it. The hook is that it changes the state of the buttons, because when I press add button, it changes the state of the app, and the app state has a button state, and the button state changes, right? But the reason why it doesn't error is because the context menu still exists. It's just hidden right now. So it's still probably right in this exact spot, but I'm not able to click it, and it just works. But it's still using the same hook every single time. It just doesn't show anything. But with the buttons, it's a lot more difficult of a story, because these are added dynamically. So I can't just like render it at all times, because the user is going to add an arbitrary amount of buttons. How do I know how many to render, right? Unless I have like a set amount. That'd be so jank if I like hard programmed in, all right, you can only have 10 buttons, and they just appear when you right click them, and they already existed. And yeah, no, that we're not going to fucking do that. It's so awful. So I'm still trying to figure out how to figure that out, because I think I need to like pass the state to the button, but I did try that, and the state gets outdated over time. So what was having happen, which I probably should have left in, but I was trying to get stuff working, so I don't have that version anymore. But what was happening was I just hooked it up to set the buttons to what it thinks the buttons are. So when you added a button, but you clicked the first button, all the other ones would disappear, because it never got updated in state. Because if it was the first button to get added, it only knows that it was there when it got added, and then everything else just doesn't exist. So when you clicked on it, it just disappeared everything. So it wasn't ideal, but I tried to get it working, and I didn't get it working. But I decided to just pack up for the night, try to fall asleep at a better time, so I recorded this a little bit earlier. I wonder if between these videos you might be able to see like how early I'm recording them. Like, hopefully over time, hopefully in like a week or two, I start recording these at like midnight instead. So I'm getting a little bit better sleep, or not even a little bit better sleep. I'm getting good sleep, trust me, but just at a better time, right? But yeah, that was, I think, I believe, right? I thought there was 3 main things. I don't think I was going to include the dragging, because I wasn't able to get that working, but I'm going to be honest, I don't actually remember what the other stuff was. So I'm probably just going to leave it there. I'm not going to sit here and think about like, okay, well, what was it? Actually, you know what? I can do that, because I could pause the OBS recording. I'll be back in 1 minute, and I'll tell you if I actually figure out something. I'll be right back. Okay, yeah, I'm back. Yeah, no, I didn't figure out anything. So I'm just gonna end it there. I thought I did more than I did, but this is still pretty good. I mean, most of my time was just trying to get the dragging to work. That was the past few hours, and I was not able to figure that out, so that unfortunately won't be shown. But I'll get it working eventually. Anyways, I'm glad what I did do. I was able to do this, which was very nice. This is very satisfying. It's switching sides, so it could be as big as possible of a screen. That is quite a beaut, ain't it? And they all resize. Anyways, all right. Sakandia.dev/hub for the Discord, and yeah, all that good stuff. All right, bye.